The O'Reilly Factor's on tonight.
We're fighting for America. We're saying to those who say they're patriotic, but they turn a blind eye to the destruction that he's about to cause this country.
Congresswoman Maxine Waters once again attacking President Trump. Well, what exactly is the beef? Talking points on the case.
There was a very serious effort made by Mr. Putin to interfere in major ways with our basic fundamental democratic processes. In some quarters, that would be considered an act of war.
Should the USA punish Russia for interfering in the presidential election? We'll debate it.
Are you someone that's very politically correct?
I would think so.
If you and I were working together.
Sure.
And I said, you know, you just look dashing today.
I would think that might be a bit leading.
Also ahead, is political correctness actively harming America? We have some strong evidence tonight.
Caution. You are about to enter the no spin zone. The Factor begins right now. Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. A liberal congresswoman attacks President Trump. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. For years, Maxine Waters, Democrat from California, has been an outspoken left-wing voice, highlighting the oppression she believes black Americans experience. Talking Points believes Ms. Waters is totally sincere in her belief system. And although many Americans disagree with her extremism at times, she deserves a hearing and should not be marginalized by political opponents. In fact, I made that mistake this morning on Fox and Friends. I said in a simple jest that the congressman's hair distracted me. Well, that was stupid. I apologize. I had no place in the conversation. Now, it's not necessary to poke fun at anyone who's speaking from the heart in the public arena, in my opinion. But it is necessary to analyze what's being said.
Despite the fact that America has not always been there for us, we've always been there for America. We have fought in America's wars. We have suffered discrimination. We have suffered isolation and undermining. But we stand up for America, oftentimes when others who think they are more patriotic, who say they're more patriotic, do not. When we fight against this president and we point out how dangerous he is for this society and for this country, we're fighting for the democracy.
Now, it would be instructive for Ms. Waters to come on the Factor to define her beef. What's bothering her about President Trump? But of course, she will not do that. Way too risky, because she'd be challenged by me, and she doesn't want to be challenged. The record shows that President Trump has put forth a philosophy that would certainly help the poor, including African Americans in that category. The more jobs that are created, the higher incomes will be on every level. The more Americans hired, the easier it will be to get a job. The more companies expand, the more demand there will be for labor. The more discipline imposed in public schooling, the more the kids will learn. And education is the most important anti-poverty program there is. So what exactly is Maxine Waters talking about when she says Mr. Trump is dangerous for America? I have no idea. And I don't think Ms. Waters has any clue either. She's just spouting the left-wing company line, and anyone who disagrees with her, well, she doesn't brook disagreement. That's not patriotism, madam. That's demagoguery. It would take a miracle, but I really wish liberal advocates like Congresswoman Waters would stop the ideological nonsense and really focus on what America offers every responsible citizen. Opportunity, a variety of ways to success, freedom of expression that Ms. Waters makes good use of, and a real chance to help yourself and help others in your life. But in order to succeed in this country, you must be self-reliant, not dependent on the entitlement system that Maxine Waters loves so much. You must work hard. You must learn and develop a skill off the knowledge that you acquire in school. And you must be honest. That's the message Congresswoman Waters and others should be spreading. Patriotism, I should say, comes in many forms. Questioning the patriotism of others and bashing a new president isn't patriotic. It's useless. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight. Reaction joining us from Washington, Jamila Bey, radio commentator in D.C. So where am I going wrong, Ms. Bey?
Let's talk about honestly. First of all, it's always a delight to be with you, Bill. But let's talk about honesty here. Congresswoman Waters is impassioned. She's a ranking congresswoman. She's speaking for her constituents and clearly doing a good enough job. They are electing her. She's what, 12 terms now? But when we talk about the honesty and the integrity of this president, she brings up some good policy questions. Let's start with the fact that he's under investigation right now. And that's an issue that I don't think we can really go into at this point, because there are issues that are brought up that a congresswoman with her clearance would absolutely be privy to, that we, not with those clearances and whatnot, might not know what's going on.
I mean, that's just the dopey conspiracy theories. And by the way, President Trump's not under investigation. There is an investigation into whether there were any ties between his campaign and Russia. So let's stop. Look,
okay,
this is a simple question.
Okay.
What is the beef on policy?
On policy.
Jamila, what is the beef?
What is the beef? Where is the beef? The policy hasn't presented itself yet. Trump asked while he was running, what do you have to lose, you black people who have horrible schools and wastelands for neighborhoods? And yet, we're already seeing that there are 24 million Americans right now who are saying, how are you going to take away our health care? We voted for you. We didn't know you were going to come after our...
Right, so she has a beef on Obamacare, which didn't pass. Look,
which didn't pass for good reason.
In your opinion...
But this is not about it. The attempt at repeal didn't pass. This is about a president who said, I'm going to put you to work, Americans.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that America first, Americans. Yet... he says, okay, well, we're going to do this Keystone Pipeline, and we're going to use American steel.
And more jobs will be created by the Keystone Pipeline.
But there's Chinese steel. There's not American steel being used.
No, it's not Chinese steel. It's steel that was ordered under that was already ordered, that he can't send back, and any new construction will be American steel. Jamila, you're really straying off now. Let me ask you this question.
No, I'm not.
Do you believe...
You're asking
Jamila,
why she's upset.
Let me ask the question.
Okay.
These are not big deals that you're bringing up here. Do you believe that African Americans generally today in America are prospering?
I do not believe that generally African Americans today are prospering.
Okay, let me stop you there. And I'm glad you answered honestly. So for the last 8 years, we've had Barack Obama as president. So then if you don't believe they're prospering, you'd have to lay some of that. 8 years is a long time. And as you know, black home ownership went down.
Absolutely.
All right? And so the job wasn't done by a black president, Barack Obama. Now you have a new president, all right? And believe me, Maxine Waters loved everything that Barack Obama did. You have a new president who says, you know what? I'm going to do it totally differently. And I'm going to create a lot of jobs. So everyone will benefit. And still, you can't get a break from Maxine Waters. Last word.
President Obama spent 8 years and he was not able to reverse the losses that happened in the Great Recession. Black home ownership went down. Black women's wages. The average black woman is worth about $5 in the U.S. That's unchanged since 2010 when the statistic was first brought out. That hasn't changed, even though black women are the likeliest American to pursue and complete a bachelor's degree.
So give a new guy a chance. Maybe he'll be able to trump by his policies, create more jobs, more action, and better schools. I just think that Ms. Waters is being desperately unfair at this juncture. Give him a chance. I gotta go.
I think if he does it, we'll all be happy.
All right. I don't think Maxine Waters will be happy, but let's be optimistic. Next on the rundown, shocking update on the alleged rape of a 14-year-old girl in Maryland. It ties in with illegal immigration. Then later, is political correctness now actively harming the USA? You bet it is. Those reports after these messages. Back to follow-up segment tonight, that terrible situation in Maryland where a 14-year-old freshman in high school says she was raped by a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old, both foreign nationals. The case received widespread coverage because of the illegal alien crime issue. But now Fox News has confirmed that the young girl may have consented to the sex. However, both suspects remain charged with felonies. It's impossible to determine a case like this on television. And because of the coverage, many Americans assume the two illegal alien men, 17 and 18, are guilty, which may be true, but we will not know until the evidence is presented to a jury or the men plead guilty. Joining us now from Washington, Lisa Booth and Juan Williams. So Juan, big story in the district where you live. What's your take on it right now?
Well, it's a horrific crime by any standard. I mean, this is unacceptable behavior by anybody. To me, it still is a major story because Donald Trump has made a major issue of immigration, especially illegal immigrants, and the associated crime with illegal immigrants.
All right, but
unfairly, I think, but that's what he's
lawyers
done.
Now are saying that the 14-year-old girl, and believe me, no 14-year-old girl or boy is able to consent to anything like this. All right, so let's just be real about it. But the law says that if it is consensual, the act, that the rape is not involved, and that's one of the charges against these two guys. So it gets to be very complicated, all right? But the story is explosive on a lot of different levels. And, you said, Juan, in your opening thing, it was a terrible crime.
Certainly was.
Yeah, but these guys aren't convicted of any crime yet. It's an allegation they're charged with. But you've already convicted them.
No, I've not. What I'm saying is that
it's
the
a terrible
act, to my
situation.
mind, just as you said, Bill, for a 14-year-old girl in a bathroom in a high school with two men, to me that's horrific. I don't know I don't know about the crime and the charge specific, in terms of the court. But you asked me as a human being, as your friend, you asked me, hey, what do you think? Imagine if that was my child or my relative, right. I would be apoplectic.
So that's, I think, everyone watching agrees with that. No matter what the criminality is, this should never have happened, Lisa. 14-year-old in a freshman in a high school bathroom, and those guys bear some responsibility because you just don't do that when you're 17 and 18 to a 14-year-old. That doesn't happen in this country. Go.
Well, absolutely. And I think who cares who the president is? The alleged and possibility of a 14-year-old being raped matters, period. And the reality is we don't know if it's consensual. My understanding is there's information about a certain text message that went out, I believe, the day before. But a text message does not equal consent. We don't know what happened.
Fox News has confirmed, Doug McKelvey, all right, that there is conflicting evidence. It's all we can tell. All right, it's conflicting. It's not a slam dunk as most people thought it was last week. Go ahead, Lisa.
But in a court of law, a text message or any sort of exchange like that does not...
Again, we can't try it here.
Okay, but the point being, Bill, what is at issue here is the fact that we also have a commander of the Montgomery County Police Special Investigations Unit who has explicitly said that it was not consensual. We also have a police chief who said that the events were brutal.
The men remain in jail without bail.
Exactly. And we also have court documents that describe a pretty gruesome sequence of events. Again, we don't know if this is exactly what happened or not.
And this isn't the only thing in play. Now, Juan, has critical mass been reached in the criminal, illegal alien zone in this country? The people said, enough. We do not want this sanctuary cities. We don't want this stuff. And we got to clean it up. Has it been reached?
No, I don't think so. In fact, I think there's tremendous resistance in the sanctuary cities that you mentioned against efforts to defund them or punish them by withdrawing federal funds.
So you don't believe that the majority of Americans have had enough of illegal alien crime in this country? You don't believe
No, in fact, the statistics show that so-called sanctuary cities are safer than non-sanctuary cities. And don't forget, Bill, Rudy Giuliani, tough on crime, former mayor of New York, was the one who made New York City a sanctuary city. And it has had tremendous support from police chiefs around the country.
I think critical mass has been reached. What do you think, Lisa?
I think we're absolutely heading there, Bill. And I also think it's important what President Trump has said that he is going to do with the Voice unit is give a voice to victims of illegal immigration. Because I think this is something we haven't spent a lot of time. I know you have with Kate Steinle. But as far as widespread attention to the issue, it hasn't been given that much attention. And so I think with President Trump being the president, having talked, having elevated and given a voice to the victims of illegal immigration, these conversations and these incidents are going to become more pertinent, and people are going to be paying closer attention to them.
I think that's one of the reasons that Donald Trump was elected president, was because of this issue. And I think with these crimes that we're seeing in Maryland, Long Island, in San Francisco, I just
worry about fear-mongering and unfairly blanketing people who are just hardworking people.
But nobody has a right to come into this country illegally. Nobody has that right, Juan.
Okay.
And they are pouring in here, and we're going to stop it. Directly ahead, Factor investigation. Austin, Texas being punished, as Juan mentioned, for its sanctuary city policy. Then is political correctness ruining the country? You'd never see a film like Animal House today. Toga, 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 toga. The Factor is coming right back. Impact statement tonight, punishing sanctuary cities. As we reported last night, the Justice Department says it will not grant federal money to jurisdictions that do not obey federal immigration law. And Travis County, where the capital of Texas, Austin, is located, is one of the most aggressive sanctuary places in the country. In fact, the sheriff of the county, Sally Hernandez, is flat out refusing to hold illegal aliens who have been arrested, even if ICE asks for a detainer on them, unless the suspect is booked on capital charges. Sheriff saying she needs a warrant, which is a complicated process and not required by federal law. Already, Texas has denied Travis County $1.5 million in grants. Joining us from Austin, State Representative Eddie Rodriguez, who supports the sanctuary policy. Seems to me, Mr. Rodriguez, that a person in this country illegally who is then arrested for a crime, because remember, just crossing into the country is not a criminal offense, it's a civil offense. But the person's arrested for a crime, a criminal act, should not be allowed to roam around, even if Sally Hernandez wants them to. That's just logical, is it not?
Well, listen, I really do believe and support local law enforcement, whether that's here in Travis County or anywhere in the state of Texas. And I have to believe, and I do believe that Sally Hernandez and local law enforcement here thinks that this is the best policy. Now, I have had the opportunity to talk to local law enforcement, not only here in Austin, but around the state of Texas, and not a one of them have told me that they believe that the communities will be safer if anti-sanctuary city laws are passed or anything else.
But you'll see that there are laws on the books, right? Federal immigration laws, there are laws on the books. You'll see that.
Correct.
Okay. So does Sally Hernandez, the sheriff of the county, have the right to make up her own law, to disregard federal law? Well, I don't like it, so I'm going to impose my own law. Does she have that power to do it?
Well, I don't believe that she's violating federal law at all.
Well, she is. If ICE asks for a detainer from a local jurisdiction, the local jurisdiction is supposed to cooperate with the Homeland Security Department.
The detainer is a detainer request, Bill, and the federal law doesn't mandate local law enforcement to detain for ICE and for ICE to then take them away. Now, what this policy here in Travis County has allowed her she's allowing herself the discretion to go after violent offenders.
Okay, here's why you're wrong. It's against the law, civil law, as I pointed out, to be in this country illegally, whether you overstay your visa or sneak in across the Texas border. Okay? So you are in violation of federal law just doing that. Then if the federal government asks a local sheriff like Sally Hernandez to hold the lawbreaker, the person who's here illegally, she's required to do so under the statute that these people are illegally here. Do you not understand that? And that's what they're defying in the sanctuary places.
Well, if you look at what Donald Trump's executive order was, is basically saying that if the officer of the sheriff or the local officer is withholding information from the federal government, then that person is disobeying the federal law.
I'm not talking about the executive order. I'm talking about the demand by the federal government that all local law enforcement obey the federal immigration laws, and that's why that's why they're going to get punished. Now you're trying to raise money for your county, right? Travis County.
Yes, I am. If I can just go back really briefly, I think the policy, the question is whether or not these detainers are supposed to be honored, and the answer is that they're not. There is some discretion.
So what you're saying is that if you're here illegally and the ICE Homeland Security people say, please hold that person, that you're saying under the law, the local jurisdiction doesn't have to do it. That's what you're saying.
I think currently under the law there is some discretion built in.
Okay,
I do believe that.
It's just not there. You're trying to raise money for Sally and the Travis County folks because Sally's lost $1.5 million already, and she's going to lose more from the federal government. How you doing?
Bill, well, thank you for asking that. And Bill, that's not exactly accurate, if you'll allow me to. So what the governor did was withheld $1.5 million to Travis County, not to Sally Hernandez or the sheriff.
Travis County. She's a sheriff of the county.
That's correct, but those are two very, very different things. So the money did not go to the sheriff's department in any way, shape, or form. The money actually went to Travis County for different programs in different courts, right? So Travis County has veterans courts,
you're not getting that.
The veterans courts, the family violence courts, and et cetera. Those are where the governor decided to punish Travis County, and instead of going, he was intending to go after the sheriff, and instead he went after innocent folks in Travis County.
Well, there's no doubt innocent folks are going to get hurt by this, but I think it all comes back to Sheriff Hernandez and then disobeying the law.
Well, I do think that the governor has a political vendetta against the sheriff, and in the process,
could be true. I don't know Texas politics. Could be true, but reality is reality. Good debate, Mr. Rodriguez. Appreciate you coming on. Plenty more as the Factor moves along this evening. Say goodbye to movies like Animal House and The Producers. Way too politically incorrect for our sensitive PC culture. We'll discuss the issue. Also, a tribute to police in the form of Blue Lives Matter flag banned in a Florida neighborhood. I hope you stay tuned for those reports. Unresolved Problem segment tonight dealing with Russia. As you may know, the FBI and congressional committees are currently investigating whether the Russian government tried to subvert our presidential election. Former Vice President Dick Cheney spoke about the situation in India.
There's not any argument that at this stage that somehow the election of President Trump was not legitimate. But there's no question but what there was a very serious effort made by Mr. Putin and his government, his organization, to interfere in major ways with our basic fundamental democratic processes. In some quarters, that would be considered an act of war.
Wow, well, this is not analyzed, Dana Perino. Now, is he overstating that?
Not technically. I actually think that you can make a case. The U.S. War College actually had one of their professors said today that yes, there are international laws that say that a country can't go in and try to subvert an election. Mm-hmm. I think that when Vice President Cheney, I think he's being very clear-eyed, but I think some people hear Dick Cheney say an act of war and they immediately think of 200,000 ground troops are going to head to Russia to try to retaliate.
Well, no, I mean, but the Congress is the one that has to declare war. The president or vice president cannot do it. But if it is proven that the Putin government did take active steps to subvert our vote, then we'll probably slap sanctions on Russia. That's what they would have to do. But there's no way a vote like that would pass in Congress.
No. I think that going forward, since we know that the Russians have wanted to do this for many decades.
And have done it to other countries.
Definitely. And in fact are trying to do it right now in France. Because that election
is like Le Pen.
Yes.
They're like the far-right candidate who went to Moscow to toady up to Putin. Yeah. So I don't know whether you're accusing Russia of trying to interfere. I'm not sure they are, but certainly they would like Le Pen to win.
Right. Well, it depends. So that's it gets back to that definition: interfere, influence, and then you get to all the way to act of war. I do think the tactics are different, and they have technology now. So cyber warfare.
Cyber warfare
is called warfare for a reason.
You know what? And I don't think America is prepared for cyber warfare, because there is going to come a time when evildoers try to take our grid down. That means that none of the machines would work, and the whole country would ground to a halt. That's going to happen. Now that would lead to planes and tanks and fighting, right, if they did that. But it's hard to prove this stuff. You know, that's why I'm not convinced the FBI or the congressional committees are going to be able to pinpoint what Putin did or did not do, because he uses surrogates. He uses 15 layers.
Because it is so elusive. It's very clear. If for example, when Russia invaded Ukraine, it was clear there were tanks on the ground, there's bombs, there's people.
Right, but this internet business is, and leaking and hacking and all of this.
And actually holding people hostage, right? Saying, if you don't pay us money, we're going to release your information.
Blackmailing people. And I'm sure they do that.
It's definitely happening, especially more so in corporate America rather than.
And that's what a lot of people are worried about here, is that if Russia had its tentacles deeper inside our system than we know. Interesting thing happened to BillO'Reilly.com about it had to be 8 years ago. We had somebody hack in and try to harm people who were on the website, and the FBI got the case, and they found it. They found the guy, and he was in Akron, Ohio, okay? And he got sentenced to prison. So these FBI guys are pretty good.
The punishment has to be severe.
It was a college age, I don't know whether he was in college, he was a college age kid. He did a couple of years, all right, just for that. But I was heartened by that, because I didn't know whether the FBI was going to be able to do it. But they're pretty good. I mean, they can narrow it down to who's doing what and where they are, even though these people have walls of here and there and everywhere. But Cheney is right. I mean, if you're going to try to subvert our democracy, I mean, we got to put you on some kind of war list. Last word?
Well, I would think that the other thing that President Trump can do, I think he's going to meet with the NATO allies at the end of May.
Yep.
That should be on the agenda, that cyber warfare and some sort of coordination and support for each other in this effort is going to be important. I think that'd be a good step for him at the NATO meeting.
Dana Perino, everyone. When we come right back, political correctness. It's damaging the country. We'll tell you how. Special report straight ahead.
Wiley Factor, the #1 cable news show for 16 years and counting.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly in a personal story segment tonight. Political correctness. It has reached critical mass in America, as many folks are terrified of even giving opinions for fear of being branded a villain. Joining us now from Dallas, Nick Adams, author of the book Retaking America, Crushing Political Correctness. Here in New York City, Michael Rectenwald, professor of liberal studies at NYU. So you were put, Professor, on paid leave, okay, for actually attacking the PC culture at your college, correct?
That's right. Well, what I did is I established an anonymous Twitter account, the anti-PC NYU prof, and I tweeted a few tweets about political correctness and the way it was ruling the university.
Give me an example.
Well, I talked about the Halloween costume surveillance, for example, in which students, the most scary thing about Halloween today is not, being scared by costumes, it's being scared to wear them because of the surveillance upon students. They're being,
if they dressed as a sombrero at the Mexican, and then they would be held to test.
That's right.
But your case had a happy ending, that you were suspended with pay, but then promoted to a full professor.
Right. In the interim, I got a promotion to full professor.
That's
and a
shocking.
raise. Yes, I mean, it's amazing.
Especially at NYU.
But I think the key is that I held my own, and I didn't back down. I continued to say what I was saying and to say
based upon freedom of speech. Right?
Freedom of speech. That's right.
All right. Now, Mr. Adams, we asked you to come up with a couple, because you're the author of the book, with a couple of examples of how PC behavior is harming the nation directly. Go.
Bill, lots of different examples, because I think political correctness is pretty much behind every single problem that we see in America today. Straight off the bat, let's talk about Hampshire College in Western Massachusetts, a liberal arts institution of about 1,400 students. Last November started doing all kinds of funny and awful things, quite frankly, with the American flag. It led to the United States flag being removed for a period of time under the tenure of the college president, Jonathan Lash, and it was only when veterans groups and other patriotic forces came together that action was taken and that flag was actually restored.
It was only after Jesse Waters went up there, embarrassed them, and the next day it was put up. All right, what's your second example?
The second example, I think, is a pretty recent example of the travel ban and the reaction to it, specifically on Capitol Hill, and even more specifically, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who put on an Oscar-worthy performance, replete with crocodile tears and different props, talking about how this travel ban that the president had signed, which was really seeking to keep us safe, was mean-spirited, that the Statue of Liberty had tears running down her cheeks.
Right, it was anti-Muslim.
He was waxing lyrical.
That's what it was. All right, those are good examples. Now, how did we get here, Professor? How did this happen? I mean, when I was in college in the 60s, there was a lot of uproar, and it was a little bit of political correctness, but not anything near this. How did it happen?
Well, I'm doing a book on the genealogy of just how this business got to where it is today. And it really is very scary, Bill. It goes back to Maoism, frankly. Many, many techniques from Maoism have been adopted by the PC left. And now the PC left's, their agenda has been taken up by the administration and universities, and now it's ruling the roost.
And the root of the Maoism is you can't say certain things.
Yeah, the shaming culture that goes on. This goes back to Maoist struggle circles, they were called, and the self-deprecation that people are expected to engage in. This goes back to what is called Maoist autocritique, in which one deprecates oneself before the audience and tears oneself to pieces.
Especially if you're white,
straight
Christian,
male, cisgendered male.
You're the oppressor then.
That's right.
Okay? So that's what the PC culture is going for here. Do you see it the same way, Mr. Adams?
I do, Bill, but I think that political correctness is far more than just an imposition on speech. I think it's a way of life. I think it's a mentality. It's a psychology. It's one that says that you should strive for mediocrity as opposed to greatness, that success shouldn't be celebrated or admired, that it should be resented, that you shouldn't colour outside of the lines. I can't think of anything more un-American or anti-American, and whether it's porous borders, declining educational standards, as you illuminate every Monday night across America, all of those things really have their roots in politically correct hostility aimed directly at the values that have made America the exceptional nation on this earth.
You guys both make great points, but here's one point that I want to make. Right now in this society, achievers are considered the enemy, and people who don't achieve are considered the victims. And that PC has seeped in almost everywhere. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Gutfeld McGurk on deck. A flag supporting the police ordered taken down in Florida. The boys are next. Back in the book segment tonight, what the heck just happened? In the Jacksonville area of Florida, a woman has been ordered to take down a flag that honored American police.
This is the flag that Jeff Gaddy says has flown outside his daughter's house for years. He tells me it's to honor him and the many other family members who are law enforcement.
And if you drive by and you see that flag, and it kind of makes you feel a little bit better that, you know, there's a family that supports what I'm doing.
Gaddy says recently his daughter received this letter asking her to remove the flag, saying it doesn't fit the rules and regulations of the Homeowners Association.
She called them and asked why, and they told her they'd received a complaint that it was considered racist and offensive.
Here now to analyze Bernard McGurk and Greg Gutfeld. So, a homeowners association in Florida, and I used to live in Florida when I was way back. I taught high school, people know that. And I was in an apartment complex, and they had a little association. But all they did was paint the parking lines and make sure there weren't giant rats jumping on you when you went into the pool. Now, it's a political statement, Gutfeld.
Usually homeowner associations are filled with, they have like 10% busybodies, that's their life. I was a lifeguard at a condo, and the homeowners people made my life hell.
A lifeguard at a condo?
Yeah, I was actually called a pool monitor. I wasn't actually allowed to save anybody because they legally, I didn't have the expertise to save people. So they said, if anybody's drowning, just stand and wait for somebody who knows what to do.
Okay, so you sat in a lounge chair.
Yes, I sat in the lounge.
Where was this? What state was it?
I was in Northern California.
Okay.
I was in high school.
All right, so you were involved in a condo association.
Yes,
too.
I was, briefly.
Right.
Until I was escorted out.
But this is how insane this is. Yeah. Because number one, it's a good thing that you're supporting the police.
Duh, yeah,
right? And somebody complains about everything. They don't like Gutfeld's shoes.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do? Burn his shoes?
Ridiculous.
I mean, it's crazy. Now, the only exculpatory thing, big word of the day, is that if the condo association has rules about what kind of flags you can fly.
Well, apparently they have different flags there, and they don't have specific rules. They just caved, acquiesced to the person who called. By the way, now we know where Colin Kaepernick lives. But listen, these homeowner association people, they're cowards. I would have told the people that complain, you know what you do? Call the cops.
Yeah, that's right. Call the cops and complain about the flag.
You're triggered by a blue line and a flag, for God's sakes. Relax.
It's so stupid. We're living in a stupid world. You know, we just are. Now, there was an article in called A Weirdest Interview Mistakes, Job Interview Mistakes, in the Detroit News and a website called CareerBuilder.com. So we have asked the resident What the Heck Just Happened folks to come up with the two each of the weirdest things that will get you booted out of a job interview. Your first one.
My first one was bringing childhood toys to the interview.
And this is a real thing.
This is according to this study, yes,
right.
It's a real thing. But to me, if somebody did this, it's not a mistake, Bill, because I've lived in the real world. I've collected unemployment insurance. It's a nice tax-free check every week. Nobody wants to give it up. They make you look for a job. You go on job interviews for chump jobs. And who wants to be a receptionist?
So you would bring a panda from your childhood so you wouldn't get the job.
I would bring an Etch-a-Sketch or Mr. Potato Head. Do you want to be a receptionist?
And just pet it while you're talking to the...
Do you want to be a receptionist at a tuberculosis clinic?
I got it. I knew there was logic.
You know what I'm saying?
All right, Gutfeld, number one.
What if it's my therapy toy? Anyway, you know, the interview thing I thought was interesting was asking the person interviewing you out to dinner afterwards.
Yeah.
I happen to think that's totally appropriate because it shows initiative, that you saw an opportunity, and that's why you should hire me, because I said, hey, look, I'm not willing to wait.
Right. I want to get to know you better.
I want to get to know you better. Let's go to the local Applebee's. Have some sizzling ribs.
To be serious, if you're looking for a job, do not ask the job interviewer out for dinner. Second one.
Second mistake was the guy called his wife to ask if the starting salary was okay during the job interview.
That shows that he's not a real man, number one.
Either that...
He should know what the starting salary is.
Either he's henpecked or he was trying to get a job on The View or something like that, in which case that would
call the wife and ask about the salary in front of the interviewer.
Yeah.
All right, your second one, Gutfeld.
I thought there was a person going for the job that kept taking off and putting on his sunglasses, and I realized that it was David Caruso from CSI Miami.
Oh, yes.
So remember, if you're fiddling with your sunglasses, you know what the best one for me, and I know this happens in job interviews, you're in the middle of the interview, okay, you're trying to get the job, your phone rings, and you answer it. Oh, excuse me, let me get this, I'll be right back to you. You're disqualified immediately. And that's a real thing that happens. Don't do that, gentlemen. Thank you. Factor tip of the day, are you old school? Find out in the tip, moments away. Koppel reached the top in a very tough business based on his interviewing skill. I don't know him very well, but it seems he's more interested in how information is presented than promoting a political point of view. I guess I could be wrong. Steve Davies, Da Nang, Vietnam. Koppel and his contemporaries refuse to admit that times and news delivery have changed. Most of the national media is no longer the fourth estate. Now they are fifth column for the left. Val Sanchez, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Mr. O'Reilly, you are correct on the health care front. Regular folks like me are the ones who will continue to suffer the consequences of Obamacare. I wish all politicians cared more about that, Val. Gerard Smith, Evansville, Indiana. The Freedom Caucus should be thanked for standing up to Paul Ryan. The bill contains all the bad things in Obamacare. James Langan, North Branford, Connecticut. Hey, Bill, are you going soft? Congressman Nunes used the term at the end of the day twice, and you didn't even flinch. I did on the inside, James. But I can't interrupt serious interviews to harp on cliches. You know that. Craig Humphrey, Dallas, Texas. O'Reilly, how about a tip on a good sausage pizza? Well, I'm partial to Anthony's Coal Fire, Craig, in my Long Island area, if you want to take a trip up from Dallas. Villa Milano and Gino's both score big. Maria Salesia, Hampton Bays, New York. Bill loved the town hall on Old School last night. It was such fun. We have posted the town hall on BillO'Reilly.com for folks who missed it. And glad you watched, Maria. Connie Ridgway Johnson, Valley Springs, California. Bill, your book, Killing the Rising Sun, was fascinating to me. I spent almost 4 years in a Japanese prisoner camp in Sumatra. The book was accurate on Japanese cruelty during the war. You should write a book, Connie. Will Panic, Farmington, New Hampshire. Last weekend, we drove down to New Jersey for my father's birthday. We listened to Killing the Rising Sun going, Killing Jesus on the way back. Both were excellent. Well, thank you, Will. Rising Sun, still number 3 after more than a half year in the marketplace. Wow. Killing Jesus now out in paperback. And finally tonight, the fact or tip of the day, speaking of books. My new one, Old School, Life in the Same Lane, out today. Reached number 1 hardcover on Amazon already, and early reviews are strong there. I wrote the book with Bruce Fierstein, author of Real Men Don't Eat Quiche. Old School defines what the philosophy really is and stacks it up against the snowflake movement that we were talking about before, so you know what's in play. Now, I actually wrote the book because I was acting like a snowflake, whining about how bad the PC culture really is in this country. But whining gets us nowhere. So I did something. I wrote Old School. It's mostly humorous, but with serious undertones. As we discussed tonight, politically correct madness, hurting free speech, actually harming education. People are fearful. Students are indoctrinated in some cases. So Old School folks must step up. We hope you like the book. Please let me know what you think. Factor tip of the day.